Okay, so now that you've been introduced to the general idea of what the laser cutter project is, we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, if you don't have an idea, if you haven't gotten your sketches done, if you haven't had a conference with me before starting this, you need to do all of those things. So you might want to spend some time going back through the slides, getting an idea for a project. You do have to have this sketched out, and you and I have to talk so that we troubleshoot any possible problems you might have. All right, so let's go ahead and pretend that we did all those things, and we're going to be doing a very basic keychain. Okay, let's say that's what we're doing. So we're going to go to File, New. And what I want you to do is I want you to set up the following dimensions, just because it's going to be the dimensions of the laser cutter themselves. So for width, you can go as high as 16 inches, and for height, you can go as high as 10. Okay, so this is about as big as you can get. And if you want to, you can go ahead and view and then turn on your rulers. So it shows you the approximate size of things. You can then also put on your grid. So you can go to view and go to show grid, and it's going to show you your 1-inch increments. Okay, so you can kind of figure a rough size. So if you have a ruler in front of you and you know that you want your keychain to be 2 inches wide, you now know. This is way bigger than you're probably going to need. That's okay for most of us. But just in case you're doing a very large project, this is what you want. So again, let's say we're doing a very simple keychain and we're going to do it. We're going to put a picture of a flower on it. So I'm going to go back to Google and I'm going to go to images and I'm going to go to flower photo because I just want to find one that I can trace. So I'm going to go with this one here. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to Illustrator and I'm going to paste this thing in here. Okay. So just like you did in the practice videos with the pen tool is now I'm going to go through and I'm going to just draw out my flower, however you want to do that. So I'm going to go kind of fast here, guys. You can use the pen tool. You can use any of the tools that you've learned how to use. I'm going to use the pencil tool real fast. This is going to be really ugly, but you're going to get the general idea of how this works. So I've gone through, I'm making all my shapes. You can use the pen tool. You can use the pencil tools, however you want to make your image. Okay, you can even use those shape tools. So if I've got a circle here, well, that just makes sense just to do a circle rather than try to, okay. So I've got, there's all my outlines. Ooh, that's ugly. I'm gonna get rid of that one there. Okay, so I'm gonna fill these for just a second so I can see them. Okay, so let's say this is my keychain. It's pretty horrible. You have to do both cutting and engraving. So if I want all of this to be engraved in, like, so it's gonna cut it all the way down, I'm gonna leave it solid and you're gonna have a video later to show you how to finish this off. But I've got to cut this thing out. I have to have an outside shape of some kind. So I can do that a couple different ways. I can just do a basic circle. So let's say I wanted that to be my keychain. And I'm just going to make everything kind of a different color right now so I can see it. So we're going to say like, this is my keychain. It's going to be a round circle cut out. And then I'm going to have this flower kind of etched inside. Or I can be fancy and I can say, well, I'm actually going to cut those things out. But anyways, you're going to figure out what your illustration is. If you're doing a piece of jewelry or you are doing a keychain or such, you do need to put a hole in there for your jump ring, which is what you use to attach it. So you do need to put a hole in there, some kind. What I would suggest for you to do is when you are doing this, I would color code them in your head. So if I know I'm going to have, like my wood is going to be, I'm going to make it wood color just so I can kind of know what I'm doing here. Okay. And this is going to be blank. I'm going to make, that's going to be like cut out. So I'm going to make that white so I can tell it's cut out. So if I want all of these to be cut out, I would make those white. Or let's say I don't, I just want them kind of engraved down in the wood. You can just make this easier on yourself. Just make it maybe a lighter shade of that color. So I remember I'm like, oh yeah, that's just kind of etched down in. But if you want other shapes in here that are cut out, because you can have negative space. So let's say I wanted to do like a leaf. And that leaf is going to be cut out. So like you can see through it in the wood. make those all kind of sort of one color. So you can trace, you can do as much as you want, but remember you basically you have cutting holes into things and you have your engraving. Now, let's say that I don't like the circle. I don't want it to be a circle. Instead, I want it to be more organic around my shape here. That's where you would use the pen tool or one of the other tools. This is getting really sloppy here, guys, but I'm getting the general idea here. So if I wanted this to be more of an irregular shape to my piece of wood that's going to get cut out, and then I would maybe not use those. So there's now my keychain. Okay. If you are doing a complex, different image, so if I wanted to do multiple things, so let's say I actually wanted to do a necklace or an earring set, maybe I'm going to make a copy of those. So now I've got my 2 earrings. Or if I'm going to do something that I'm going to have a bunch of little dangles or charms from this, maybe I'm going to make them all different sizes. You can do that. As long as you can fit them all on this piece of wood, I don't care. Okay. It's however you want to do it. If you are using text, so let's say I'm doing a plaque instead. So we're not doing a keychain, we're doing a plaque or a sign that I'm going to hang on my wall. And isn't it going to be lovely? Maybe the basic bottom shape is like this. Don't worry, I'm going to fix it. I'm fixing it, guys. Okay, so I've got a plaque here. And let's say I wanted it to say my name or something on here. Don't overthink this. Just use your type tool. Set it to whatever your engraving color is, so to speak, and your name or quote here. And you can get super detailed. Because that engraver will get pretty detailed. You can do some, pretty fancy fonts. If you want to do something with a lot of texture, you can do that. If I was just engraving in here, I could engrave in some detailed lines. So if I wanted to do some texture, again, you can do whatever you want here. Just what I would do for your sake is, again, if it's an oops. If I just want those kind of to be engraved, just make it that lighter color so you know. So just, let's say brown is the wood, light brown is where it's cutting down into the wood, and then white is any negative space. So you can see how this is all working. So when you're done, you should have something that looks like that. So that's my sign I would hang on my wall. And then the last thing I would do is just make sure that this is the size that you want it to be. If this is my wall hanging and I know I want it to be like 8 inches wide, you're going to use your rulers and guides. So I know now, I set it here. There you go. It's just about 8 inches wide. Okay. As always, have fun with this. Push yourself to try something new and unique. But again, do not start this video until you have your sketch done and you've talked to Mrs. Shore.